One of the most common questions that we get asked, specifically at the beginning of the year when new doctors start their internship, is what is a credit score and how can I improve my credit score? Now, this typically happens when a client plans to purchase a vehicle for the first time, or if they plan on buying a property, or even if they start and consider to enter into a lease agreement when they have to rent property. Now, whenever you enter into a financial commitment, financial institutions and lenders will have a look at your credit score, because your credit score will be the numerical representation that will give them an idea of how risk averse it is and what the likelihood it is for you to actually receive credit from them. Now, in South Africa, there's a number of ways that you can improve your credit score, and we're going to touch on those different points throughout the course of this video. But first and foremost, it's important for us to understand how do these financial institutions look at a credit score, and what is the likelihood of you getting a better rate and more money when you intend to incur debt. So first of all, credit scores in South Africa range from anything from 300 to 800. The higher your credit score, closer to 800, the more likely you are to receive credit from financial institutions, and the more likely these guys are in terms of borrowing you that money. The other thing that's important is the higher your credit score, the more likely you are to get a good repayment rate. Now, in South Africa, we always talk about, for instance, the prime lending rate. So when you incur debt and you intend to make a specific financial commitment, it's always advisable to get as close to prime or prime minus in terms of the repayment of that credit that you want to incur. Now, the big question is, now that we understand what a credit score is how are you going to improve that credit score? I think the most important thing that we can recommend to people is to pay your bills on time. Paying your bills on time is a crucial thing that you need to do to be able to improve your credit score. Now, paying bills on time, for instance, you paying your car installment, you paying your clothing account, repaying the credit repayment balance on your credit card, all of those things count in your favor. If you are able to pay your credit accounts on time, it shows good credit behavior and the ability that you have in terms of repaying this debt. That will be a very positive thing when the credit bureaus and financial institutions actually look at your credit worthiness. Another important thing to consider is to reduce your credit balance. Now, what does it mean to reduce your credit balance? When you take out a credit card of any bank, the bank will typically give you a credit limit on your credit card. Now, a credit limit can, for instance, be 100,000 Rand. It's advisable to reduce that credit limit as far as possible and the balance on that. So by that, I mean, let's use an example. If your credit balance, or your credit limit rather, is 100,000 Rand, it's advisable to keep the balance as low as possible. For instance, don't incur more credit than 20,000 Rand. If you incur more than 75% of your credit limit, then that's negatively going to affect your credit score, because from a bank's perspective, or rather a financial perspective, it will look like to them that you do not have money and that you are dependent on incurring credit. So the other important thing to consider, and I made a note of it here, is to don't necessarily close all the accounts. And why do I say you don't need to close all the accounts? So when we look at credit worthiness and we look at a credit score, credit bureaus will typically look at your credit history. So if you've got a very long credit history in terms of having certain accounts in place for a number of years, that will also be very positive in terms of increasing your credit score at the end of the day. So that means that you are a person or individual that's able to incur credit and you can repay that credit over time, and you're not 100% dependent on that credit. So if you've got a clothing account, if you've got a specific credit account that you're not utilizing at the moment, keep that account open. Don't necessarily close that account, just keep it open, because that's going to improve your overall credit history, which is very positive from a credit score perspective. Something to be very aware and to be very cautious of is you have to limit the amount of credit inquiries that you do. What is a credit inquiry? A credit inquiry is every time that you check your credit score with a credit bureau such as TransUnion or Experian, that's going to negatively affect your credit score. So if you intend to make a big financial commitment such as purchasing a property or buying a car, and you intend to finance that property and car, limit the amount of credit inquiries that you do prior to you planning to approach a bank for finance. Because what was going to happen is when you approach the bank for finance, they're going to look at how many times have you inquired to actually access credit and to increase your credit limit, and over time that's going to negatively affect your credit score and it might come back to bite you. Then guys, be patient and persistent. Building a good credit score is not something that happens overnight. You have to be 100% invested, and you have to be very focused in terms of improving your credit score. You have to focus on all the things that I've mentioned to you. Pay your bills on time, reduce your credit balance, keep accounts open, and you have to build a long credit history. And unfortunately, one can only build a long credit history with time. That's one thing that we can't buy, is we can't buy time. So be very patient, be persistent, and with time you will be able to build a good credit score. If you find this video helpful, if it managed to give you a little bit more insight and knowledge into what a credit score is and how you can improve your credit score, please share this with your friends and colleagues. And yeah, if there's more information that you need to educate yourself, please go to our YouTube channel and gain knowledge into how to make more educated decisions. Until next time, plan the plan.